Two buttons. You always hit the wrong one.
I'm consistent after 14 years.
Ready whenever you are.
You push the button.
Did you hit it?
No, it's on.
It's on.
Okay. 6:02. Let's get started.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Finance Committee of the New Haven Board of Alders. We'll begin by reading the published notice. Aldermanic Notice, New Haven. The Finance Committee will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chambers, 165 Church Street, New Haven, to hear the following. OR 2025-0011. Ordinance amendment to appropriating ordinance number 1, authorizing budget transfer number 133-25-1, transferring funds from the finance salary account in the amount of $160,000. Office of Policy and Management and Grants salary account, $150,000. Registrar of Voters other contractual account, $100,000. Parks Department salary account, $235,000. Department of Health salary account, $100,000. Public Works Department of salary account, $140,000. And Office of Building Inspection and Enforcement salary account, $120,000. And transferring to Corporation Counsel Legal Services budget in the amount of $1,005,000 and amending the legal service agreements of Ford Harrison, not Harrison Ford, Ford Harrison, Halloran and Sage, Howd and Ludorf, Karsten and Talberg, Machini, Voccio and Jordan, Milano and Wanat, and Sussman, Duffy, and Sigaloff, in excess of $150,000. LM 2025-0158, Order of the New Haven Board of Alders, authorizing the Board of Education's collective bargaining agreement with Local 217 Unite Here, AFL-CIO, in accordance with the tentative agreement from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2028. These items may be inspected at the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street, second floor, New Haven. Per order, the Honorable Adam Marchand, Chair, attest Michael Smart, City Clerk. If you need a disability-related accommodation, please call 3 business days in advance at 946-7651-VOICE or 946-8582 TTY. Public comment or testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2:00 p.m. on the day of the meeting. We will now have members of the committee introduce themselves, starting to my right.
Alder Rosa Perot, Santana, Ward 13.
Sal DeCola, Ward 18.
Alder Adam Marchand, Ward 25. Chair.
Sal Punzo, Ward 17.
Taisha Walker Myers, Ward 23.
Okay, well, so despite the very, very long titles, our agenda tonight is fairly simple. The first item is a request to transfer money within the city's budget to pay for proposed increases in contracts the city has with outside legal firms. You heard all those names, those are the legal firms. So that's the first item on our agenda, and we'll hear from city staff on that. The second one on the agenda is a ratified contract between Local 217 Unite Here and the Board of Education. Part of our process is after a tentative agreement is reached and after it is ratified by the union, it must then come and be approved by the Board of Alders. This is the public hearing where we'll get to hear about that contract from the city's representatives. Both of these items are public hearing items, so I will, at the end of each presentation and after the alders on the committee ask questions of the staff, I will see if there's anybody in the public who wishes to testify on these items, and then we'll close out the meeting. We are currently one person short of a quorum for this committee. Have no fear, we'll be able to proceed anyway. It'll simply be the case that we'll take no action this evening and ask the full board to discharge these items at our next full board meeting. That's what we're going to do with item 2 anyway, because the statutory time limits are such that we don't have time for a first and second reading for that contract. So we won't be voting on it tonight because we have to ask the president to discharge it so that the full board can vote on it in our next board meeting, which is Monday. And so that item will be voted on at our meeting on Monday. But we're going to hear about it tonight, all the same. So that is our agenda. Those are the 2 items. Before I call folks forward to give their presentations, let me just remind you that if you have a phone or a pager or other device that makes noises, please turn it off or put it on mute so that proceedings will not be disturbed by whatever ringtone you might have. Some of them are fairly large or loud, rather. When people come forward to give presentations or to give testimony, we'll ask them to give us their names and addresses for the record so that information can be included in the public record. So let's proceed with the first item. And I see that our corporation counsel is here and a couple of her deputies. Please come forward, whoever's making the presentation. I'll give you a moment to get settled. If you have, I don't think you have extra paper for us, but if you do, just let us know and we'll look at it.
No, we don't have any. The good news is we don't have any extra.
Okay, no paper shuffle. That's welcome. Why don't we start to my right and have you introduce yourselves going in 1 second.
Shannon McHugh, Budget Director, 295 Orinoco Road, Waterbury.
Pat King, Corporation Counsel, 32 Vista Terrace in New Haven.
Michelle McRae, Deputy Corporation Counsel, 175 South Lake Road, East Haven.
Hi, Rod Williams, Deputy Corporation Counsel, 20 Lancelot Drive, North Haven.
I have those moments as well, Attorney Williams. I walk into a room and I try to remember why I went into that room. So the floor is yours. Please give your presentation.
I think generally the paperwork is self-explanatory. This is not a new issue to us or to this committee. We are seeking contract increases for the 7 law firms that are listed in our submission. The matters that the law firms are working on is described also in their submissions. Generally, the driver of a lot of this continues to be the wrongful convictions lawsuits that involve multiple defendants who therefore need multiple counsel. And I have inquired, as I think I said during our budget presentation, going forward, we can expect more of the same next year. We have also had a couple of issues that have involved more work than we anticipated, a couple of election complaints that Fort Harrison defended. Milano and Monarch has been working on a particularly tricky piece of federal litigation involving an LDL property on Chapel Street in New Haven that is still, we're hoping it's been crawling towards resolution, let's put it that way. I think we did the federal mediation about 1.5 years ago, but we're crawling towards resolution on that. Cameron Sage has had also a couple of litigation pieces that have required a lot of work. So I think, as I said, it's pretty well set out in the law firm submissions. So that's basically the situation.
Any further comments that you wish to make before we ask questions? Seeing none, we will open the floor for questions from committee members. Questions on this request, which should be noted is a request for transfer.
Yes.
From various salary lines across the city budget.
That is correct.
Into the legal services agreement budget of the Corporation Counsel, and then a request to increase the maximum allowable charges for these various contracts. That's the request. Any questions about the transfer or about the LSA amendments? I guess, seeing none, I'll just ask, maybe just a little bit more flavor about the different firms and what they bring to the table. I know that we've had requests, so the last set of requests were for a firm that really specialized in public safety issues, and they were doing a lot of work on police and fire contracts and grievances and arbitrations. And then we did one, I'm forgetting its name all of a sudden, I should know this, about the Board of Ed. There was a particular firm whose name is Shipman and Goodman that does a lot of work around educational issues, right? So those firms, it was pretty clear what they were involved in. This one, it's a lot of different firms, and you mentioned various things. Are they all kind of general and looking at all different areas of the city's endeavor, or are they like focused on particular areas of preference?
Well, Howard and Ludorf, Karsten and Talberg, Massini, Voce and Jordan, and Sussman and Duffy are generally involved in the defense of these wrongful conviction cases. Some of them also have other police-oriented cases as well. And that's generally the specialty. There are legacy law firms that have represented the city over the years in these types of matters. And generally, we do send one of them involves a death, which the police department was sued. So we generally refer those types of cases to these law firms. Fort Harrison we use for primarily appellate consultation. There's an attorney there whose name is Proloy Das, who's one of, I think, the best appellate lawyers in the state. And he handled also a couple of election complaints we had before the Election Enforcement Bureau and got us good results, excellent results of dismissal in that. So we also consult with him from time to time when we have civil issues of whether we should appeal, what other legal issues we have to be aware of. He's very helpful, and he's the primary attorney that we deal with at that point. Milano and Wannet handles some general litigation. They've handled the litigation on the Chapel Street property. And they handled an appeal, successfully handled an appeal for us involving a number of retired police officers who thought they were entitled to retroactive pay increases after they retired. They were successful in that. And Howard and Sage has also handled some fairly it's been, I don't know how complex it is, but it's been sort of a difficult road trying to stave off a claim from the state that we owe them a certain amount of money based on a project. And in order to defend that, we're going after one of the contractors. It's a long story, but anyway, those types of cases are cases that we refer to these law firms. We have been able to keep more of the general litigation in-house, so that it's been an improvement. You know, we've had an improvement in that since we're almost fully staffed now. I still have one vacant position that would be assigned to the Board of Ed, and then that attorney would come back to us. So we have been able to hang on to more of the general litigation, but particularly some of the specialty litigation is handled by these firms.
Thank you. Before we proceed, let me just recognize our colleague, Alder Jeanette Morrison, who has joined us. Any other information you wish to offer in response to my question? Wonderful. Two more questions. One is, obviously the city has longstanding relationships with these firms. That tells me that we feel good about the quality of work that they do.
Very good. Okay. And we get, by the way, excellent rates from these lawyers.
That was my next question.
Yes.
Could you say more about
private market?
Yeah, we are the Finance Committee after all. So.
Yes, I totally understand that. In the private market, you know, clients would be looking at probably upwards of $450, $500 an hour from some of these lawyers. Many of them do municipal work, and we've been able to get the benefit of pretty low hourly rates from them. And the hourly rates, I think, are all included in the various proposals, but it's quite a bit lower than I think one would pay retail, if you will, for this type of service. And there have been excellent lawyers who've gotten excellent representation. Tom Gerard from Howard and Ludorf, as you may be aware, kind of quarterbacks a lot of our wrongful conviction and police misconduct cases. His rate is an excellent rate for his expertise.
Great, thank you for that information. Any further questions from the colleagues? Alderman Nicola.
I just have one. How many of these will be basically carrying over until the next budget season? So I have an idea that we might be looking forward to referring of these names again. Just
Yes.
curious.
Well, all the police cases will be carried over. As I said, I did inquire as to what we might be expecting next year on these police cases, but they're all going to be either gearing up for discovery, which is an expensive process with all the depositions that are involved, or going to trial, pretrial, possibly mediation or pretrial conferences. So we can expect, I think, pretty much the same with Howard Ludorf, Karsten, Massini, and Sussman and Duffy.
Okay.
So Milano and Wanna, hopefully some of these things will wind up, so we may not have quite as high numbers from them or Fort Harrison. But one can never predict in the litigation world what's going to happen.
Thank you, Alderman Nicola. Further questions from colleagues on this item? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the gallery. Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on this item? And for a second time, is there a member of the public here who wishes to testify on this request for a transfer and increasing the legal service agreements with the various law firms? And for a third time, is there a member of the public who wishes to testify? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we're going to proceed to the second item of the agenda, which is the ratified contract between Local 217 right here and the New Haven Board of Education. I saw our Director of Labor Relations.
She was involved with Schumer.
Ah,
Do you want me to go? Because I need to go back there.
okay, that would be most welcome. So we're just waiting for the city staff who are here to present. We are fetching them now. Perhaps they expected us to have more questions.
Well, if I
If
may,
you want to speak more, then you should come forward and give us your name and address once more, if there's something you forgot to say.
this is, no, this is,
Pat King, Corporation Counsel, 32 Vista Terrace in New Haven. Just as an informational matter, the Director of Labor Relations was with me and Attorney Dupree all day at a federal mediation, so I think that just wound up because Attorney Dupree just arrived, so I would expect that our Labor Relations Director should be here shortly.
Thank you so much.
She wasn't planning on being there, but she's here. She's luckily here, she was. Do I need to come forward?
Please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening. We'll take your name and address for the record, please.
Wendella Aldaddy, 33 Cold Spring Drive, Bloomfield, Connecticut.
Okay.
What's the question?
So this is the ratified agreement between the Board of Education and Local 217 United.
Unfortunately, my statement is very short. The city does not negotiate that contract. I don't negotiate that contract.
So who from the city is prepared to come forward and talk about this? We usually don't need to.
Sean?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's my mistake. I thought you were presenting, so
Good evening again.
thank you so much. I called forward the wrong people. Okay, so the right people are not coming forward.
I'll start first. Good evening, my name is Baron Young, Director of Food Services, New Haven.
Jennifer Punzo, Bureau Supervisor, BoA Food Service.
Joshua Stanley, Secretary Treasurer of Unite Here, Local 217.
Shannon Bowman, Stewart.
Hi, I'm Lisa Flecker, Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations for New Haven Public Schools.
Thank you all for being here. I'm sorry that I didn't call the right people up in the first place. I would just note that your microphone doesn't have one of these protective covers, and so you don't want to be too close to it, or as you've already noticed. So who's giving the presentation?
We don't have a presentation. We were informed that we're here for questions. If there's any questions regarding the tentative agreement that was ratified with the Board of Ed.
Okay. Well, so that, I don't know who informed you of that, but we've done this a lot. And each time somebody comes forward and gives a brief presentation on the contract, and then we ask questions. So if you don't have anything prepared, that's fine. But if there are certain key points that you think it's worth mentioning to us, we would invite you to do that, and then we'll ask questions.
That sounds good. So throughout this process, some things that transpire. There is a pay increase for our workers. Overall, it's going to be $6. So how that it's going to be broken down into increments. So 24.25 is going to be $2.50, 25.26 $1, 26.27 $1, and then 27.28 $1.50. That was an agreement that we had. It came about. Another one is in regards to the insurance. The insurance now is being handled by the city, 100%, with the 2% pay in from our employees.
Which is a decrease from the 10%.
Which is a decrease from the 10% that they were originally paid. We also worked on our perfect attendance. So what we're doing is now for each semester, the first semester, which ends in December, and then the second semester ends in June, we have a perfect attendance bonus of $150. That goes to any of our employees that have perfect attendance throughout that time frame. Hours of work. Well, we discussed that. Well, it's agreed that with the conditions of the operation in each cafeteria, whatever the conditions might be, they remain constant, and the number of personnel and the hours currently worked by said personnel in the cafeteria should remain unchanged from the present. In the event that we have to make those adjustments, we do give a 2-week notice of letting them know that we're making changes and going to be transferring you to another location. We also discussed sick leave. With the sick leave in the event an employee is absent due to illness or injury for 10 days in any school year, they may be required by the superintendent or designee to submit a doctor's certificate for subsequent absences. In addition, the superintendent or designee may require the employee to attend a meeting if the superintendent or designee has a reasonable concerns about the employee's attendance and or suspension of attendance or abuse of a leave, sick leave abuse. Again, nothing in this section shall prohibit disciplinary action against an employee for attendance issues, provided such discipline shall be subject to the provisions in Article 22.
Yeah, there's 2 things. I also just wanted to mention that what's different with this contract is now the 7-day sick time. Anything that is, if they do not use it, they will get paid out for it at the end of the year. It's not use it or you lose it anymore. And also this will also settle the agreements, the pension agreements that had been discovered through error that since 2016, Local 217 members weren't given the option to go into the pension or Social Security. They were automatically being put in Social Security. So now with the ratification of this contract, we will move forward and all 217 members will automatically be put into Social Security.
Okay.
Correct? Right. Okay, so make sure I'm getting it right.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Any other information that folks here would like to give us?
In addition to what Jen and Baron just shared, we did a very good job of presenting. I do want to just mention that with regards to the sick day payout, it is an incentive, right? So there are employees that do have good attendance, and there's an opportunity because the previous contract, if you didn't use that time, you lost that time. So in this contract, they have an opportunity, hopefully it's an incentive for employees to come to work, and if they come to work and they don't use their attendance, they will get paid out, which is a kind of an incentive, and we're happy that we came to an agreement on that.
I think we can add from the union's perspective that we believe that this contract will massively improve our members' lives after these 5 years of unprecedented inflation. We believe it will disincentivize absence and incentivize, our members sort of sharing the workload together, which we think is a win for the New England Public Schools as well. And when it comes to the healthcare, so it's been presented that there's a significant decrease in the amount that our members pay. That's also coming with us moving from a more expensive plan to a less expensive plan that we think is better for our members and will result in them having more take-home money while getting an excellent healthcare plan, and saves the New Haven Public Schools significant funds that are then going into wages.
Thank you for that information. Anything else you would like to add? No? Okay. Thank you for that presentation. Any questions from committee members of these folks? Alder Morrison.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask, are you happy with this agreement?
Absolutely.
Okay, as long as you're happy, I'm ecstatic.
Further questions from colleagues? Thank you, Alder Morrison. Seeing none, we thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My apologies for no presentation.
Well, you did a great job, despite
I'm a fraud.
what you heard. And if you would sign in with our staff, that would be helpful. So, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on this item? Any members of the public wishing to testify on this ratified agreement between Local 217 Unite Here and the New Haven Board of Education? And for a third time, any members of the public wishing to testify on this or the other item that we have heard about tonight? Okay. A motion would be appropriate.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close this public section of the meeting.
Second.
The motion's been made to close the public hearing portion of this meeting. It's been seconded. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. I'll take that nod as a
Yes.
It's a yes, okay. Unanimous for closing the public hearing portion. And as I mentioned at the outset of our meeting, we don't have a quorum. We had it briefly, but President Walker Myers had to leave due to a family emergency, I'm afraid. So we're now 5 of us, which is not a quorum of this committee, which is fine, because we were planning not to act on this second item anyway. We're going to ask the president of the board to discharge it so that we can vote on it right away in our next meeting. We need to do that, otherwise we pass our statutory timeline for taking action. So we weren't going to vote on the second item anyway. As for the first item, I will ask Madam President to discharge it, and then we'll give it a first reading in our next meeting. It's an ordinance amendment, so it needs a first and second reading, whereas the approval of the contract is not an ordinance amendment, and we can vote on it the first thing. So we don't have any deliberations, we don't have any votes to take tonight. I'll just say as chair that I personally feel very glad to see a settlement between 217 and the Board of Education. I had felt very concerned that a number of workforces within the Board of Ed and across the entire city had seen good contract settlements, including the teachers, including the administrators, but no such agreement had been reached with the food service workers. I didn't think it was fair to see other segments of the workforce being taken care of and seeing sizable increases, which were justified, and not also the food service workers getting those increases. I would note let's hope the same thing happens for the paraprofessionals, who today don't have a contract. But I'm very glad, and I will speak in favor of a yes vote from the floor in our next board meeting when this is discussed. But having said that, I'll just briefly announce that our next meeting is on a week from tonight. It's April 9th. It is our budget, a public hearing, and then departmental workshops. It's also our monthly meeting. Hopefully we won't have much business to conduct. That's one of the reasons why we did the legal stuff tonight, to make next Wednesday a little bit less busy. Next Wednesday, back to our budget. Alder DeColo.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
A motion's been made to adjourn and seconded. Any discussion of this motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
The motion carries. We are adjourned.
I was supposed to work overtime. I could be here like late. I missed my money. I could have made my money tonight. So next time.